Welcome in, everybody. It is the final The Walkthrough Game Day show previewing a game. We're actually going to have probably about another one or two more episodes. We're going to do an end of the season one and then probably one where we get into some of our bold picks and our playoff predictions. So the DVM pick'ems are just heating up. It's not going to end out this weekend, but we're going to get into a couple more weeks before we kind of claim a winner. So, Gene, you're rocking something pretty cool. I just want to let you go ahead and take the floor for a minute before we get into all the chaotic stuff about West Virginia football right now. That's some nice swag you're rocking right there. What is that?
Thank you. I appreciate it, my guy. I appreciate it. Listen, this is really what this is all about, man. At the end of the day, this is historic. This is a 1989 Gator Bowl sweatsuit that we got when we played Clemson.
Wow.
So I'm not sure how many of my former teammates still even have this thing. Back in the day, I used to let my son wear it. You know, he loves this top. Obviously, I can't fit the pants no more, but nevertheless, I digress from that. But yeah, man, this was so historic because that Clemson team, if I'm not mistaken, I think they had probably either somewhere between 10 to 12 players drafted in that particular year's NFL draft. They were loaded with talent.
Yeah.
I think about this, and here's where my bloodline with WVU comes from. When you played or when you're blessed to play on historic teams, my years there, we went to 3 bowl games, man. We played in the Sun Bowl in 87. Obviously, 88, we played undefeated for a national championship against Notre Dame in the Fiesta. And then my senior year, which was this year, 89, we played Clemson in the Gator Bowl. You will never understand the bond that you have with your teammates when you rock out in games like that, because to get to those kind of games and to play those type of teams, we played Oklahoma State in the Sun Bowl, we played Notre Dame for a national championship in the Fiesta, and we played Clemson in the Gator. Those were, historic programs, obviously. And you look at what Oklahoma State is doing currently over the last few years. Mike Gundy back then was their quarterback when we played them in the Sun Bowl. It's interesting to see how everything comes full circle, right?
That is crazy.
So I just want to share this little ditty with our current student athletes. Keep in mind, hard work doesn't stop because you get either beat out or you're sitting on a certain spot on the depth chart. You don't give up because you're sitting second or third on the depth chart. That's not the time to give up. That's when you work even harder, because think about it this way. When people talk about and they glorify this daggone transfer portal, it works both ways. Do you not think that you're the only person that's looking to bump their head in the transfer portal? No, everybody's looking to dive in the transfer portal, right? Here's the catch-22. They may not tell you the other people that they have on that roster sitting there waiting for your hips to come in there and think you're going to take their job. That particular student athlete is going to bow his back and is going to work that much harder because he knows this is a totally different culture now, but everybody want to transfer all over the world. If you're third string in somebody else's system, what makes you think, again, you're going to bump your head in the transfer portal and be first string someplace else?
Yeah.
I don't get it. If I'm a coach, listen, yeah, you got to navigate it because that's the culture where we are now. This is the current free agency of college football and basketball in every sport, for that matter. Work hard, bow your neck in your back, and become the best possible player you can become. If the coach is telling you you're not starting or you're getting less reps, ask that coach why, and then go to work. Well, and then if you're lucky, you're going to come out with a vintage one of these someday that you can share with your grandson and your son or whatever to show them this is what my college career garnered me. That's why no matter where I go, I got something on with West Virginia on it.
I tell you what, that's actually a really good segue, because I wasn't going to bring it up, but the transfer portal is an absolute mess. I mean, it is what it is. But like you said, that is kind of the new age of college football, college athletics. Whether or not coaches like it, it doesn't really matter. That's how they're going to have to win games. We've seen guys like Dabo Sweeney at Clemson who kind of at first kind of and kind of almost still. I don't know if he's taken any transfers because he is so old school in thinking we're going to build this thing through the high school ranks and we're going to develop guys. They're going to lose guys to the portal, but at some point you've got to be able to be willing to adapt, because if not, it's kind of an adapt or die kind of a situation. In this situation for West Virginia, Neil Brown, I mean, I don't want to say he's about to coach his last game at West Virginia, but the writing seems to be on the wall. And I don't know that he can save his job at this point. But whether it's Neil Brown or whether it's anybody else or somebody else that comes in and takes this job over, they are going to have to commit themselves to attacking the transfer portal as viciously as you would the high school ranks, because that is how you're going to be able to compete. If you don't, and you're swinging and missing on guys in high school and you're bringing in guys from the FCS and JUCO, like, you're probably not going to have that same success. So anyways, I just wanted to throw that out there.
Definitely.
But back to Neil Brown. It seems like this could be his last game at West Virginia. Do you think that Neil Brown will be back next year? Because this is the final game of the regular season. West Virginia can't go bowling. This is the last opportunity for Neil Brown, if he has even an opportunity, to kind of prove himself or prove to the administration or to the new AD at some point that he is the right guy for this job. Do you think he's the right guy for this job? Do you think he gets that opportunity next year, or do you think they move in a different direction?
Well, it's hard to say, but I will say this. Let me answer the latter first. I think from a standpoint of representing a university, representing a state, representing young student athletes and helping them mature into men purely from a character standpoint and a moral standpoint, no doubt about it. Yeah, Brandon could have played for Neil Brown, the kind of man that he is. Now, let's segue that into coaching. All you can go by is what you've seen over 4 years.
Yep.
And then what you've seen over 4 years, it hasn't hit the mark as to what the expectations were from year 1 to year 2 to year 3 to year 4. So based on that, I would probably say no. Based on that, he probably wouldn't be back as a head coach because he didn't hit the mark. He didn't hit the expectations that everybody wanted. This is the first time in as many years that WVU has not made a bowl. Okay. This is the first time, to my knowledge, that we are almost dead last in our conference. Okay. To my knowledge, we've lost more players in the new nutrition or attrition of the transfer portal than ever before. And I'm talking about, and that's including regular transfers prior to the transfer. That pretty much speaks that there's something wrong with the culture of your program.
Yeah.
There's a reason why Dabo Sweeney and Clemson stay old school, because he really does understand in order to win, you have to win with developing talent in your high school recruiting base. That's first and foremost. I don't care what anybody says. That's first and foremost. That's the reason why some of these other programs, they can literally, it's plug and play. It's plug and play because they really do develop their talent. It's the next man up mentality. Yeah. Because they developed the second and third guy. So you don't have to bump your head in the transfer portal. Then you have other programs that'll have 1 to 2 coaches that's all they do, or a recruiting coordinator that's all he or she does is look for talent in the transfer portal. That's their job.
Yeah.
And there's where you don't have the wide misses that certain universities do have. That's one of the reasons the running back that's in the NFL right now, who started off at Wake Forest who wound up transferring to Michigan State?
Kenneth Walker.
Kenneth Walker. Do you not think whoever recruited him, I wonder whoever recruited him initially at Wake Forest, why did that not work at Wake, but it worked at Michigan State? And that's a rhetorical question. But I'm going to tell you why. When you don't know what you're looking at as far as talent and how that fits into your scheme, then there's something that's missing. Because he went arguably to a bigger and better conference with more talent from top to bottom and ran crazy. So it kind of makes whoever recruited him at Wake Forest go sit in the corner and put the dunce hat on.
Yeah.
Because that makes no sense. How do you miss that type of talent? And again, that's not me calling out there. I'm just talking apples to apples here. You have to know what you're looking at. And if you don't know what you're looking at, then you probably should not be recruiting on a national level.
Yeah.
Because you're going to screw up somebody's career.
The one thing that I kind of have the biggest gripe with the West Virginia fan base right now is there's still a small section that keeps saying, you know, if you fire Neil Brown, then you're going to head into a rebuild. You're going to have so many guys decommit. You're going to have a mass exodus to the transfer portal. Like, yes, that's going to happen, right? Like we understand, but like you had said, the portal works both ways.
Absolutely.
When the coaching staff comes in, when and if, more likely when, there's going to be guys that leave, but there's also going to be guys that come in. There's going to be kids that decommit from the high school ranks, but there's going to be kids that commit to West Virginia. And that's that. In the age of college athletics today, I actually think there's a reason why some programs are turning around much faster, and that's because of the transfer portal. Kansas in year 2 under Lance Leipold. How many times have we talked about this on the show? Year 2, he has that program from not only 6 feet under the ground, but out from underneath that spot. But they are in the middle of the Big 12 right now. And Dave Aranda wins the Big 12 in year 2 at Baylor. Now, obviously not as bad of a situation as Kansas, but still. Yeah. And I think that's why, in my opinion, Neil Brown has to be gone. Like, it's 4 years. Everyone had the excuse of the COVID year. Everyone had the excuse of the NIL, and everyone had the excuse of the transfer portal. Yet he did not have success. Others did. And I don't think that you should hinder yourself from making a move because you're worried about kids transferring. You're worrying about kids decommitting from your program. Doesn't matter. Like, yes, it'd be nice to have, you know, I can't say specifically, but you can't, the top 2 rated guys in this recruiting class, I'm not allowed to mention them, but yeah, it'd be nice for West Virginia to have those guys. But guess what? If the new coaching staff comes in and they leave, I'm not saying they're replaceable, but I'm saying you're going to get other guys, right? And I think people get too caught up in like, oh, that's going to be a huge loss for West Virginia. Yeah, it's going to be a huge loss, but in the grand scheme of things, if the right staff comes in, you're going to get more out of some of those younger, or out of some of those guys that were overlooked or underrated versus what you would get out of those top guys out of this current staff, because this current staff has yet to develop talent. They have 3 guys, Gene, 3 guys that have been drafted under Neil Brown. That's it. Colton McKivitz, which was mainly a Dana Holgerson guy. He played 1 year for Neil Brown. Kenny Robinson, who never played for Neil Brown because he got, you know, that separation. He went to the XFL. And then the third guy, Tony Fields, was developed and groomed at Arizona. He played 1 year at West Virginia. Yeah. None of these guys were groomed and developed by Neil Brown. And some people say, well, yeah, but most of his guys are younger guys. They're freshmen, sophomores. There's guys like Letty Brown, who played the majority of his career under Neil Brown. He went undrafted. Darius Stills played the majority of his career with Neil Brown, went undrafted. Dante Stills majority of his career. Don't know what his situation is going to be this spring. A lot of people think he's either day 3 or undrafted. Why has the talent not been groomed and developed as we've seen under previous coaches like Dana Holgorsen and Bill Stewart and Rich Rodriguez? That's a
Right.
big problem, I think, for Neil Brown. And I mean, I don't know. I think you can't worry about kids leaving the program. You can't worry about kids decommitting. You're going to find other players.
That's the nature of the business, Schuyler. That's the business that when you get into coaching, that's the nature of this business. You're going to win some, you're going to lose some. The trick of it is you have to know how to look at talent and you have to know how to recruit talent. And if you're recruiting talent just based on stars, that's
Done.
Yeah. You're done in the water. Because do you know 20% of every 5-star kid pans out?
Yep.
All right. So I told this story before. I'll make it real quick. When we visited with my son years ago, we visited Indiana. And the head coach at the time had this sheet on his desk. And I'm real observant, and so was my son. And it had a list of names sitting on his desk. Just names. And before we walked out, I said, Coach, I'm sorry. You know, who are those players? He said, I'm glad you, and he did it for a reason. He said, I'm glad you asked. Those are all my guys that are in the NFL. None of them was a 2-star or 3-star. None of them. Like maybe a 1-star. And when I was at Oklahoma, those were the guys that came. Some of them were walk-ons, but they're all in the NFL right now. And it was, let me tell you something, that sheet had about maybe 20, 25, maybe 30 players on it. Wow. None of them were 2, 3, 4, or 5 stars. They were either walk-ons or 1-star kids. But you want to know something? Here was the catch-22 to that whole piece. They knew how to develop talent. And they knew what they were looking for in a player. And they got every bit out of that player. And those guys developed over the course of their career to be drafted kids or free agents that made NFL rosters. And he was very proud of that list because at the time, I forgot what position he coached, but the majority of those kids were his kids.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm talking about, man. West Virginia is a special place for many reasons. Don't get it twisted. If you don't want to be in Morgantown, West Virginia, and you don't want to be at the university, then don't come. But if you do commit, come for the right reasons. And being a Mountaineer means I take pride in everything that I do. Being a Mountaineer means I'm going to bust my freaking hump in the classroom, on the practice field, on the game field, in the community to be the best possible person I can be. And then we're going to play some football or basketball or baseball or run track or whatever, water polo, whatever your sport is. My point is, if you come and make the commitment to be a Mountaineer, you're a Mountaineer, period. If not, then go face first into the transfer portal.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, my thing is, again, if you're worried about these kids decommitting, transferring, does it matter if the same coaching staff is in place that hasn't developed those kids? Because if they're coming into this coaching staff, how do you know that you're going to even get the ceiling out of those kids because of the past development? So, I mean, that's an interesting talking point, and I think a lot of people just don't really think about that. Rip the Band-Aid off now. Like, I mean, if you're not making progress, I mean, the definition of insanity is just doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result.
Go.
So I don't know what West Virginia is going to do. You don't know what West Virginia is going to do. I think we have a good idea what they're going to do. But that's that. West Virginia does have a game this week. Play Oklahoma State. And I don't know what we can expect from it. We don't know who the quarterback is going to be at the time of this taping. So what does West Virginia need to do? And I think it kind of goes to your point on Saturday in the postgame show of kind of playing for pride, because you're not playing for a bowl game. You don't
Right.
even know if you're playing for your coach, next year. How would you handle this if you were on this team?
Well, as a player, again, very old school. Every time I stepped on the field, I wanted to be the best I possibly can be, not only for my university, myself, but for my teammates. So we played for each other. And it's corny, but I'm just being out. We played, and if you notice on Relatively Sports with Eugene Napoleon, right? My former players and players who played before me, you hear a common theme. We play for one another, brotherhood. That's what Saturday is all about when we play Oklahoma State. These players have to play for one another. They have to play for this university. They have to play for the state. They have to play for the names on their back with pride. Put everything else aside, because you're going to have to. You're going to have to cancel the noise. You're going to have to silence the noise and just play the way that you know how to play this game. No matter who's at quarterback, no matter who's at running back, no matter who's at receiver, no matter who's on the line, no matter who's at linebacker, it doesn't matter. Play with pride. And I think good things will happen. Now, if you go out there and just lay down, it wouldn't matter if you played St. Joe's Home of the Blind. You understand? Like, this is not a game. Football is not a game where you just go and just, oh, well, have your way with me. No, anybody will run up the scoreboard if you play like that. I'm just hoping that our players can go out, the seniors can go out with a victory. I'm hoping that the younger players can go out and use this as an opportunity to get better and really show I belong here.
Right.
Okay. And have the pride to say, we are not going to go out getting blown out against freaking Oklahoma State. We're better than that. And we're going to prove that we're better than that. That's what I'm hoping for. And as a staff, as a coaching staff, I wouldn't be so concerned and licking my wounds about what's going to happen on Sunday.
Yeah.
Let's man up and let's focus on getting these guys ready for Saturday. And let's get these guys ready for a victory. Then you let the 24 hours after that be it as it may, but let's get ready to coach these kids up to have the best game of their lives. That's how I would look at it as a coach.
So before we get into the DVN pick'ems, though, I did want to say I completely forgot about this when we were talking about the transfer stuff. I have reached out to several of the West Virginia commits, and a few of them have already told me no matter what happens, as long as the new head coach, if there is one, honors their commitment, they will stay with West Virginia. So that is some positive news. Some of them have said they're going to keep their options open, which is to be expected. So it's been a little bit of a mixed bag right now. I will have something more in depth. It's actually probably already up. Again, we're taping this a day or two ahead of release. So if it's already up on the site, go check it out. If not, be on the lookout for it. I'm going to have some in-depth stuff about the recruiting class and how things stand there. So now, Gene, let's go ahead and get into our DVN pick'ems. Last week of the regular season, and yes, Eugene, you did get a little more space on me. You're 35-20 now. I'm 33-22, and as I said, we're going to have 2 more weeks of this. We're going to have a conference championship coming up, and then we're going to get into the bowl game predictions. So,
Schuyler. Okay, let me not rub it in.
Please let me win. Please let me win. That's all I'm asking. Because I know I'm not going to hear the end of this until next season, and I probably won't hear the end of it until the end of next season when I maybe beat you outright. So, gosh, just
let me not rub it in. Let me not rub it in.
Well, let's just hope for my sake that I'm able to bounce back and leapfrog you here. So, first game up, ACC. We're going North Carolina State at North Carolina, 3:30 on ABC. And how about this? North Carolina, they were on the playoff conversation last week until they lost to Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech, man. That's a tough one. Do they bounce back? I'm going to go yes. NC State is really banged up right now.
Right.
Not anywhere near the team that they were early in the season when they were healthy and rolling. So I'm going to go with the Tar Heels.
Listen, I'm with you. I'm with you outright. It wouldn't matter if NC State wasn't banged up. I would still go with the Tar Heels.
We're going to the game, and that's in the Big Ten. Ohio State at Michigan, noon on Fox. Michigan won this game a year ago. Did they get 2 in a row? Nah. I'm going with the Ohio State Buckeyes. That offense is too dang good, and I don't think Michigan just has it in them to go to Columbus, to go into the horseshoe and win, especially after beating them last year. Like I just don't see it happening, G.
No, I agree with you, and it's funny. I played in the horseshoe. Whoa, what an environment! So no, I'm going. Look, yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm gonna go with the Buckeyes as well. My wife actually picked the Buckeyes to win this game too. So let me put that out there as well.
Going out to the Pac-12, and this is what was once known as the Civil War. They dropped that name, but this is now Oregon State 3:30 on ABC. Oregon State, a surprise team this year. They're ranked 22nd in the country. I'm going with the upset here, Gene. I'm going with the upset. Oregon lost their momentum a little bit. They were in that playoff conversation too for a while. I love Jonathan Smith, the head coach. He's doing a really good job out there. Don't sleep on the Beavers. I'm going with Oregon State.
See, this is the reason why you're trolling me right now. But I'll leave it at that. The Ducks, baby. Quack, 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 quack.
I do take more chances, I think.
Yeah, listen. No, I just go with the sure thing. Oregon, man.
Notre Dame at USC, 7:30 on ABC. USC, they're so good offensively. Caleb Williams put on a show in that game against UCLA. We both went USC last week. Notre Dame has really turned the corner under Marcus Freeman. They got off to a slow start, started off the season 0-2. They found themselves. They found their identity. I really want to go with Notre Dame, but I can't. I can't do it with them going on the road. I'm going Caleb Williams again, pulling off an absolute masterpiece of a performance, and I think this could be a game that wins him the Heisman Trophy.
I'm going to agree with you on all of that because USC's offense was proven against UCLA.
Yep.
They answered every knock, they answered back at it, right? What a tremendous offensive juggernaut. They can hit you with so many different pieces so quickly. It's hard to defend everybody. So I'm with you now. USC, I like what Notre Dame is doing. Don't get me wrong. I like the staff. I think, they turned the corner. You're exactly right. But this particular game, I'm going with you, the Trojans. I'm going with the Trojans.
And West Virginia, for the final time this season, we're picking a West Virginia game. It's West Virginia at Oklahoma State. Can Neil Brown get one last win potentially in his tenure at West Virginia? Or is this another loss and he's going to go out potentially with that loss at Oklahoma State and finish his final season at WVU potentially at 4-8? Here's what Neil Brown had to say about this week's matchup against the Oklahoma State Cowboys.
I think it's all how you look at it, really. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's how you look at it. So I always think back to, I get our guys to think back to, when you're a young kid, somebody said, hey, you're going to go play in front of, 55, 60,000. You're going to play on ESPN2, I think we're on. And you're going to play Power 5 football at the highest level. Like, you'd be pretty excited. So what's changed? Just because it's Thanksgiving week and, it's late in the year, does that make it change? I think it is what you make out of it, so like that's my approach. Is it's an opportunity, and every time you have an opportunity to put video out there and increase your value as a player, then you need to do it. And I think just finishing says a lot about who you are and how you proceed. And y'all aren't here, y'all don't care anything about me waxing on poetically about football and its value, but I think there is some value in what you can learn and just finishing and how you and finishing what you start.
All right, Gene, West Virginia, Oklahoma State. Again, we don't know if this is going to be the final game of the Neil Brown era or not, but it seems like we're heading in that direction. I picked West Virginia last week. I felt like they'd be able to scratch out another win that they weren't supposed to win. Oklahoma State has not lived up to the expectations. They've been sliding recently. They got punched in the mouth early against Oklahoma last week. They bounced back, but they weren't able to pull to complete the comeback. I'm so back and forth. Do I go West Virginia? Do I go West Virginia? I can't.
You see,
I can't, Gene. I can't. I can't do it. My heart is telling me something different from my mind. And I know way too many times over the last couple of years that we've done this show, my mind's usually right. So I'm going to go Oklahoma State. You'll wait to see my score prediction on Friday in our score prediction article, but I'm going with the Cowboys.
you see what that's doing.
Oh, yeah.
That heart is pumping WVU, baby. Let me tell you something. Seniors, listen up. If you watch this episode, you understand I'm riding with you guys. Seniors, listen up. I want you guys to go out with a victory. I want you guys to play this game. You see it's getting even, yeah, you see it. More exciting. I want you guys to play the way you never played before. It ain't about the coaches. It ain't about the guys in the stands. It's about you guys going out the right way. Let's get it done. Let's get it done. Go out there and play with great pride. Go do what you're supposed to do. Handle your assignments. Smack them in the mouth. Give me a victory in yourselves and give Schuyler that loss. Because he didn't bank with you guys. He didn't ride with you guys. I'm riding with you. Let's go, Mountaineers. Go play the game the way you know how to play this game, and let's go smack them in the mouth. I'm going with West Virginia.
Whew. What a way to end the show. And I got to say, maybe I'm just motivation. Maybe that's all I am. I'm motivation, and then you come in and tell me why I'm wrong. So I like it. It's a nice little dynamic we got going on there. But that's going to do it. The final preview show of a game for West Virginia this year on the Walkthrough Game Day show. I'm Schuyler Callihan. Join with me, as always, former West Virginia running back Eugene Napoleon. We'll be back on Saturday to wrap things up for the West Virginia game against Oklahoma State on the Mountaineers Now post-game show. Click that subscribe button on YouTube at Mountaineers Now, and we will see you guys on Saturday. Thanks for watching.